Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Obviously, by the title and the thumbnail, I am going to be making clay Jack Skellington and pretty much showing you step by step on how I made it. So this would be just like a normal voiceover video kind of thing, just me just talking over the whole entire process of what I did. So right here we have me just kind of just sketching out the proportions and just getting a rough idea on how big everything should be. Like I kind of want the hill to be like around like maybe like a third of a piece of paper, and then figuring out everything else from there. It was kind of interesting trying to get into like finding a right reference or picture just to base off of everything from, because obviously there's the film, or you can just kind of just pick like a screenshot from the film and then kind of just base off everything from there, or there's millions of pictures on the internet, or you could just draw it however you want. So what I did was just kind of get like a rough idea on what I wanted to look like at the end, but I ended up changing it a little bit because I saw a really cool reference, so I decided to kind of just base off his pose off of that. So that's the cool thing about this project, is kind of you can just draw whatever you want, and then in the end kind of just change it at the last minute. The next step after drawing the picture is to get your skeleton done. So you use wire for that. So right here, I'm kind of just drawing on top of this piece of plastic, just the rough like idea of where everything should go. So right here, the circles are like to show where the bends would be. So for like the shoulders, the elbows, the knees, that kind of stuff. So I like to do one half at a time. So like starting from the feet and then working my way up to the knee, and then the hip, and then making the whole arm and everything like that. So then you duplicate that a second time, and then with a spare piece of wire, you're going to create like this like hook shape right here, and then just kind of just wrap both of the halves together, and then that will be almost like a spine, and then that will like lead, if you wrap it up, and then you'll lead up to the neck and then the head, and then it'll pretty much tighten everything together, because I find it just easier doing this way. There's probably other techniques on how to make a skeleton, but this is just how I kind of found out how to do it. So once you get your rough just skeleton done, that's when you can just cut off any excess wire you have. So right here for the neck, there you are. And then after I finished the wire, I decided to change it to look like this reference right here. Then the next step would be to build up the metal wire, so then you could add tinfoil to make it lighter, or if you're building like a smaller scale figure, I guess just clay could work, but I recommend just building it up with tinfoil just so you can have like a lighter figure. And then I'm using this super sculpty clay. And then right here, all you have to do is just kind of just rip it apart into little pieces, and then just slowly build up the character. Because again, if you do too much, it can get a little overwhelming, just because you have all this clay to work with, and this stuff can be a little bit hard to work with. So just take it piece by piece, and you'll slowly just build up the character like how I'm doing right here. I like starting with like the torso first, just like the middle of the figure, and then kind of working your way down to maybe the legs, and then the arms after that. But again, just take your time with this. It took me a bit of time just to kind of stick the clay to the wire, because it's not super easy to do that. I have seen people take like clay adhesive to it, kind of almost like a glue, and that would work a little bit better. But I kind of just was like, nah, I don't really need to do that. So I kind of just winged it and was just working my way up to kind of like the legs right here. And obviously this is a time lapse, and it did take a while, just because I was trying to get it relatively smooth without being like too bumpy. Because again, in the original movie, it's not completely smooth, but it's also not bumpy as well. It's kind of like that handmade kind of look. So just mess with it, and you'll kind of get there. And then just taking some clay tools to the torso right here, just to kind of get the general shape of it. One trick that you can do is by cutting some of the clay too. If you put too much on it, instead of like ripping it off, just taking a knife to it is another good tactic. If you can't get the right shape of it, try either adding or taking away clay, and you'll figure it out from there. So then right here is the time lapse of me putting the clay on top of the arms, and then again just kind of just smoothing everything out bit by bit. Obviously the arms look a little bit too long, but that was just because I definitely went bigger than my drawing, so I messed up the proportions. So I was kind of just making sure I had extra room to work with for the arms. So right here, now we can do the details. After putting your base layer of clay for the arms and the torso and legs, you can start working on the finer details like the coat right here. All you have to do is kind of just take flattened pieces of clay out, and then just start slowly building up the details. So instead of like making a whole coat, you can just do like small piece of clay and then kind of blend them in to make it look like clothing. So right here, kind of just building up the kind of like the collar of the coat and those little details and the like the shoulders, and then kind of just yeah. Honestly, it took me a while because I think I ended up putting way too much, so I was kind of just taking a knife to it and cutting it, making sure everything was better, and then just taking some clay tools to get the bottom of the coat right here. So just taking like a little clay worm and kind of just smoothing it out will get that detail. Honestly, I think clay tools are your biggest friend when it comes to projects like this, just because you can do a lot of details with your hands, but when it comes to finer details, you need tools. So right here is pretty much done with the coat, so then we can start working on the head. And I find out just kind of just taking like a little tinfoil ball kind of gives you your base, so you can kind of just slowly build up. And it is about the same size roughly as like his chest. So kind of that's another good measurement to do, is just kind of just take that into consideration. So once you wrap your tinfoil ball in with some clay, kind of just make sure you take off the excess, just roll it out and get it smooth. And then one thing I also want to point out is when you're doing this, make the tinfoil ball a bit smaller, so then you don't you still have enough room to make these dents for the eyes. I did notice that when I made, this is my second attempt to making the head, because my first attempt I made the tinfoil ball a bit too big, and you can see on the top right the excess tinfoil. So doing the details will definitely help you with the thicker clay for the base. So again, right here, just getting those finer details like the nose bone, just taking like a little small piece of clay for that. And then right here, just cut out your smile for Jack. And then right here are the finer like lip details I was trying to get. And you can kind of get away with using tools, but I had to build up a little bit more of the lip right here. And then using my pointer tool to get the holes for the nose. And then right here, Jack has these like, I don't even know what you can call it. Like, they're not teeth, but they're like, kind of like the marks for the skeleton, I guess. So right here, just take a good sharp knife to it and get those sharp, fine details. Now we are starting with the teeth. The teeth are not too bad. Just kind of roll out a little piece of clay and then just cut them very, very small to get those little teeth. And those will be a bit of a problem to paint, but I mean, we'll figure it out. That's future problem. And then I think the head's done. So all I have to do is kind of just poke a hole in the bottom for the neck. And then this is that clay adhesive that I was talking about earlier in the video for like the arms and the legs. So right here, just put a little drop on it, just to make sure that the neck doesn't, move anytime after it bakes. So right here, it's honestly just like using glue. I mean, it'll bake in the oven, so once that bakes, it is just solid. So any little details that you might need to kind of glue on later, just use this stuff and you're good to go. So after that, we're pretty much done with Jack himself, except for the last detail, which I almost forgot about, where his like, I don't even know what I should call it. I guess his bow tie, and then right here, his like the bottom of the coat. I don't even know what I should call this. It's probably called something, but it's these like 3 little pieces, like kind of coming off his coat, and they're kind of ripped. So I had to cut off a couple strips, and then just attach it right here, and then just start blending with your tool. Again, clay tools are your biggest friend in this thing. If you can invest in some clay tools, I would say go for it, but they're not needed, but they're just, they make your life easier in the end product, Now we are starting to build up that base, that hill, that classic hill for Jack to stand on. So again, tinfoil is probably the most thing that you're gonna use for this thing, because I would not want to use a lot of clay for this, because 1, it will get very heavy, and 2, it will not bake right. For this specific type of clay, you need to use like a certain width of the clay, so then it kind of bakes evenly. If you use too much, it won't bake all the way through, and if you use too little, it might burn. So just be careful of that. But it shouldn't be too bad. I mean, just as long as you use a decent amount of clay and again a good amount of tinfoil for this part, you should be fine. And then kind of just getting that right shape is very important. I think I messed up a little bit. I should have put some more tinfoil on like the backside, but kind of just it was a little late and I kind of didn't really care, so I wanted just to start using the clay. So here am I just kind of just squishing it. When you do get the clay, it is going to be rock solid, so like definitely kneading it with your hands is very needed. Needed. Anyway, after that dumb joke, all you have to do is just create these, like, I don't even know what to call these things. Just roll out the pieces of clay and kind of just drape it over and get every single side and make sure that they're evenly covered. And I did have to add extra clay to one of the sides, like the back side, just because I didn't build it up properly with the tin foil. So just be careful with that again, and make sure that everything bakes evenly with the right even layer of clay. But you should be fine. I mean, and then to make that process even better is to smooth out the clay, like right here. And then the next step after smoothing it out is to add texture to it. So just take a sharp like needle like this, and then kind of just scratch it. And then it's done. All you have to do is just attach Jack to the base, which shouldn't be too hard. And then this is it after you bake it. There's instructions on how to bake it on the back of the clay, so just make sure you follow those. Hi, Jack. Anyway, it is time to paint Jack, and I know it's kind of weird, like a purple mouth, but if you look in the pictures, it is a purple. I think I made this a little too purple. It should be kind of like muted, but I mean, it's whatever. Honestly, it's whatever. It's very late when I was painting this thing, so I kind of didn't really care. So just take your paints and just be very careful when you're doing this. I needed a finer paintbrush. I had to literally cut one of my paintbrushes to make it smaller, just to get those finer details. But it's okay. So after painting the white for the hands, the hands, the undercoat, and then obviously his face, you're gonna start working on the black part, and the rest, pretty much the whole thing is gonna be covered in black, even the hill. And I'll show you how to get the colors in for the hill, because it is like a purple and blue kind of hue to the whole thing. So after painting the whole entirety of Jack in black, that's when you can start working on the white stripes, and those took way too long. Just again, here's like that paintbrush that I had to like cut up, so just to get it super fine, and just take your time, be patient, and go for it. Just cover the whole thing in white lines, and luckily these aren't totally symmetrical and perfect and not completely straight. They're kind of like, they look hand-drawn in the movie, so I don't have to be too careful with it. But one thing I definitely regret is making those small lines on the back. It should have been like a little longer for each one, but it's too late, so we're just gonna live with it. So now we get to paint the bow tie now, and one thing I messed up on is I paint the whole thing in black, which is, you know, what you're supposed to do. And then right here I paint kind of like the same design that I did for the rest of Jack onto the bow tie, and it should be like finer like than the thick lines of the pants. So I end up changing it later, so you'll see that in a sec. So here's the part where I was talking about where you paint the hill in black as well, but since I was holding the hill to paint Jack, I decided not to paint it right away. Now if you have more time on your hands, I would want to just do one color at a time, so do all the white, do all the black, including the hill. But you know, since I was just doing Jack all at one time, that's how I did it. Here's the blue, and the blue is definitely way too blue, so I had to go back and kind of add some more black to it. But I decided to just make it darker for this one spot, and then that's when I can go and fix up the rest of it. And then there was some purples in here and there, so don't forget to add those. And then finally we get to attach the bow tie. So just take some super glue and attach it. Shouldn't be too hard. Again, you know, be very careful when using super glue. It should be, you know, don't put too much. And just like that, his bow tie is attached, and he is pretty much done. That's where I realized I messed up, so I wanted to go fix it. I think the last thing I wanted to do was just add some of that black to the pumpkin. I was gonna add the little, like, the brown part for the stem, but I was like, I'm too tired just to even open up another paint thing, so I was just done. So after painting the pumpkin, he is done.